Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to unpack complex ideas and make them really clear for you.
That's the plan.
So today, we're tackling something fundamental. What if everything you experience, what you see, hear, feel, isn't actually objective reality?
Yeah, what if it's more like a carefully constructed display, a sort of personal user interface?
Exactly. It's a pretty radical idea, isn't it?
It really is. It
Yeah.
goes against all our basic intuitions about perception, about reality itself.
And we're going to explore why evolution might have done this, why it might have actually hidden the truth from us.
Right. Favoring survival, maybe, overseeing things,
Yeah.
well, as they truly are.
Precisely. And for this, we're drawing heavily from Donald Hoffman's book, The Case Against Reality, Why Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes.
It's a fascinating read. We'll be pulling out his key arguments, looking at insights from evolutionary biology, neuroscience, even quantum physics gets involved.
It really does. So our mission for you today is to help you understand this idea, why your perceptions might be more like a species-specific desktop, you know, designed for getting around, not for seeing the literal truth.
And what that means for, well, everything. Consciousness, space, time. It could really shift how you see things. Get ready for some potential aha moments.
Definitely. Okay, let's jump in. The common sense view, the one we all pretty much operate with, is that when you see an apple, there is an apple. Our senses report objective reality. Many scientists think this way too.
It feels right, doesn't it? The world seems solid, predictable. You drop something, it falls. You touch something hot, it burns.
Of course. It feels like our senses must have evolved to give us a reasonably accurate picture.
But Hoffman points out a really crucial distinction here. He calls it the serious literal fallacy.
Okay, what's that?
It means we absolutely must take our senses seriously. You know, if you see that speeding Maserati.
Yeah, don't jump in front of it.
Exactly. Or don't eat the moldy apple, survival 101. Take your perceptions seriously.
Yeah.
But taking them literally, that's where he says we go wrong. We're not required or even entitled to believe the Maserati is literally what it appears to be in some objective underlying reality.
So it's like an icon on a computer desktop.
That's the analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
You take the trash can icon, seriously dragging a file there, had real consequences.
Right, you lose your work.
But you don't believe the file is literally a little blue square, or that a trash can is a real physical bin inside your computer.
Okay, I get that. The icon represents something real, guides action, but isn't the reality itself.
Precisely. And this idea that perception isn't reality, it actually has a long history.
Like Plato's cave.
Exactly, Plato's cave analogy. Or even Democritus, way back, arguing that things like color or sweetness are just conventions, not reality.
But Hoffman brings evolution into it, which adds a new layer, right?
A very powerful layer. He introduces what he calls the fitness beats truth theorem, or FBT.
Fitness beats truth. That sounds backwards.
It does. It's counterintuitive. The theorem basically says that evolution by natural selection doesn't favor perceptions that are objectively true.
It doesn't. It favors hiding the truth.
Often, yes. The math suggests true perceptions are routinely driven to extinction by natural selection.
Why would that be? Wouldn't seeing the truth be advantageous?
Not necessarily. Evolution favors perceptions that guide useful action for survival and reproduction. That's fitness. Seeing the full, complex truth might be too slow, too energy-intensive.
So it's about efficiency for survival, not accuracy.
Exactly. Hoffman says the probability of our perceptions reflecting objective reality accurately, especially if the world gets complex, is incredibly low, like less than your lottery ticket low.
Wow. Okay, so how does he show this? Game theory.
Yeah, evolutionary game theory provides some good illustrations. Think about the hawk-dove game.
Okay.
It's not literally about birds, but strategies. Two hawks meet, they fight, maybe both get injured. Two doves meet, they share. Hawk meets doves, hawk takes all. Depending on the payoffs, how much you gain by winning versus how much you lose from injury, the population settles on a mix of strategies. Maybe some hawks, lots of doves. It's not about which strategy sees the truth of the situation better.
It's about which strategy leads to more reproductive success in that environment, more fitness.
Exactly. And you see this in real animals, too. Some fight lethally, like scorpions or lions killing rivals.
While others use ritual.
Yeah, like snakes or deer that have ritual combat but rarely kill each other. Different strategies, both aimed at maximizing fitness, not achieving some objective understanding.
And this idea, this fitness-first logic, Hoffman applies it broadly.
He does. He invokes Daniel Dennett's idea of Darwinism as a universal acid,
Mm-hmm.
something that dissolves old concepts.
Okay.
Hoffman suggests this acid dissolves the idea that objective reality is just space-time and objects. He argues that even things we perceive as fundamental, like DNA or organisms.
They might just be part of our interface, too. Icons representing deeper fitness payoffs.
That's the implication. Because tracking fitness, tracking those payoffs is, as he puts it, the whole game.
Which explains why our senses adapt so much.
Absolutely. Perceptual adaptation isn't a bug. It's a feature. Our senses report differences in payoffs, relative changes, because that's the most efficient way to encode fitness information.
Like the rose-colored glasses example.
Right.
Or the waterfall illusion.
Right. Or walking into a dark room, you adapt. Stare at a happy face and a neutral face looks sad afterwards. Your system is constantly recalibrating to relative fitness cues. It's not trying to measure absolute reality.
Okay, that sets the stage. But it leads to this massive question. Consciousness.
The big one, yeah. Neuroscientists have found all these correlations, right? Brain activity linked to the taste of chocolate, the smell of garlic, seeing red.
They call them neural correlates of consciousness, NCCs.
Right. But despite finding these NCCs, there's still, as Thomas Huxley said centuries ago, no plausible story for how physical brain activity becomes subjective experience.
The hard problem.
Exactly. William James said it too. Emotion became a feeling. It's just meaningless from a purely physical perspective.
Leibniz had that great analogy, the mill.
Oh yeah, walk inside a giant machine designed to think.
You just see parts moving, gears, levers.
But you never find the thought. You never find the feeling, the perception itself. Where is it in the mechanism?
So we can find the NCCs, the brain activity associated with an experience.
And we can do amazing things with that, like curing arachnophobia by activating the fear NCC and then blocking its memory consolidation with a drug.
Wow, really?
Yeah, patients come back the next day and the phobia is just gone.
Yeah.
Or using optogenetics in mice.
Right, turning fear on and off with light.
Incredible stuff. But it highlights the core issue.
Yeah.
We have, Hoffman says, an utter failure to understand the relation between NCCs and consciousness.
We know they correlate, but we have no idea how brain activity could possibly cause or be conscious experience. Not one plausible scientific theory.
Not even close, apparently. Which brings us to those split brain experiments.
Roger Sperry's work, cutting the corpus callosum.
Mind-bending results. You show key to the left visual field so it goes to the right hemisphere.
And R-ring to the right field, going to the left, speech-dominant hemisphere.
Ask the person, what did you see? And the left hemisphere says,
Ring, because it controls speech.
Right. But then ask them to pick out the object with their left hand, controlled by the right hemisphere.
And they pick up a key.
Exactly. Two separate realities, apparently, existing in the same head, unaware of each other.
And the left brain will even make up stories to explain why the left hand is holding a key it didn't consciously see.
It's astonishing. It implies consciousness itself can be split by a surgeon's scalpel.
So what does that mean for the self? For you?
That's the profound question. These hemispheres can have different preferences, different personalities, even different beliefs about God.
One atheist, one believer in the same skull.
It really challenges our intuitive sense of a unified self. Where is the you, if it can be divided like that?
It fits with Francis Crick's astonishing hypothesis, doesn't it?
It does. The idea that you are basically the activity of your neurons. If you split the neural activity, maybe you split the you.
Okay, but Hoffman takes this even further, right? Back to the interface idea.
Yes. What if the brain isn't the source of consciousness, but just the icon in our interface that represents consciousness or our interaction with it?
So the scalpel isn't splitting the source, just the representation.
That's heading towards his idea. He proposes the interface theory of perception, ITP. Space-time itself is the desktop.
And objects, spoons, stars, brains are just icons on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Icons shaped by natural selection, not for truth, but for survival, to keep us alive long enough to pass on genes.
It's a way to compress data, basically.
A massive data compression and error correction system for fitness. Reality might have hundreds of dimensions. We can't handle that.
So our interface squishes it down into 3D space and 1D time. It leaves out tons of stuff.
Like all those muons zipping through us right now.
Right. But it gives us just enough information in a usable format to act effectively.
And we see this interface logic everywhere. Think about color.
Okay.
It's a code for fitness. We have 4 photoreceptor types, basically.
Where other creatures have way more.
Oh, yeah. That little weed, Arabidopsis, has 11. A cyanobacterium has 27, each tuned to the fitness signals relevant to its world.
And it's not just flat color, but chromatures.
Right, color plus texture. Think green broccoli versus green meat. Same basic color, vastly different fitness message, different actions required. Our interface handles that nuance.
That T-Mobile lawsuit example was interesting too.
Yeah, the magenta versus plum branding.
Yeah.
Easy to tell apart side by side.
But hard from memory.
Exactly. Because our color memory isn't perfect. It's optimized for fitness, maybe distinguishing ripe from unripe fruit, not subtle brand shades recalled later. It shows how the interface works in real life, even commercially.
And synesthesia fits in here too.
He suggests it might. About 4% of people have it, like Michael Watson tasting spearmint and feeling tall, cold columns of glass.
That's not an illusion for him.
Hoffman argues it's just a different, perhaps even richer, adaptive interface. Maybe a genetic variation offering a different way to process fitness cues.
Our vision is also incredibly frugal, you mentioned.
Oh, totally. It burns a lot of calories. So even though billions of bits hit our retinas per second,
We only process, what, 40?
something like that,
Yeah.
we think we see everything in sharp detail, but it's an illusion.
The thumb width thing, only a tiny spot is actually sharp.
Right. The brain fills in the rest, makes us think it's all high res. It's a very clever, very efficient cheat.
Which is why certain things pop out.
Exactly. Those exogenous cues, bright colors, sudden motion, high contrast, they grab our attention automatically because they often signal something important for fitness, like a predator or prey.
And advertisers use this.
Constantly. A clean ad focuses attention. A cluttered one scatters it with irrelevant pop-outs.
And the supernormal stimuli idea.
That's fascinating because the interface uses simple icons to track fitness. Exaggerated versions of those icons can be more stimulating than the real thing.
Like jewel beetles and beer bottles.
Or moose and metal statues. Or for humans, things like breast implants, or how caricatures are often recognized faster than photos. The exaggerated features hit the fitness buttons harder.
Untapped marketing potential there, maybe.
Potentially huge, yeah. Understanding the icons our interface responds to.
We also have that bias towards animate objects.
The animate monitoring system. We're faster at noticing changes in animals than in inanimate things like cars. Ancient survival priority.
And our attention follows others' gaze.
Definitely. We're social creatures. Gaze direction, pointing gestures, they guide our attention. An ad where the model looks away from the product is literally directing you elsewhere.
Even memory is tuned for fitness.
Seems so. Remembering high-calorie foods better than low-calorie ones, apparently. It all points back to survival and reproduction, not objective recall.
Okay, so the senses create an interface. Evolution prioritizes fitness over truth. But then physics comes along and seems to agree.
It's pretty striking, actually. Einstein believed in local realism. Objects have definite properties independent of observation, and nothing travels faster than light.
The common sense view, basically.
Right, but quantum mechanics keeps punching holes in it. Bell's experiments with entangled particles.
Show correlations that shouldn't exist if local realism is true.
Exactly. It forces you to give up either realism, particles don't have definite properties until measured, or locality. Influences can be faster than light, or maybe both.
And the Cauchy-Specker theorem.
That nails non-contextual realism. It proves mathematically that properties like spin literally don't have a definite value before a measurement chooses what to measure. The context of measurement helps create the property.
Which leads to interpretations like cubism.
Quantum Bayesianism, yeah.
Yeah.
Where a quantum state isn't describing the world, but an agent's beliefs about the outcomes of their actions. Reality becomes agent-dependent.
And Wheeler's delayed choice experiment just makes it weirder.
Oh, totally. Choosing how to measure a photon after it's already passed through the apparatus determines whether you describe its past as having taken a definite path or being in a superposition.
You change the past by measuring now?
Effectively, yes. And he scaled it up conceptually to photons from quasars billions of light years away. Our measurement today influences the story we tell about its multi-billion-year journey.
That completely messes with our idea of time and objective history.
It really does. It suggests space-time isn't this fixed stage the universe plays out on.
And then there's the holographic principle.
Another mind-bender from physics. The idea that all the information in a 3D volume of space can be encoded on its 2D boundary.
Like a hologram. Or our 3D video game world being run by 2D pixels on a screen.
Exactly. It suggests space-time might be pixelated at the tiniest scales, the Planck length. Our perception of a smooth 3D world could be a projection.
Which fits perfectly with the interface idea. Our 3D space-time is the way our interface presents underlying information.
It seems to align remarkably well. And then you have black hole physics adding more fuel to the fire.
The information paradox. Quantum mechanics says information can't be destroyed.
But general relativity suggests it vanishes into black holes. Big conflict.
And concepts like black hole complementarity.
Suggesting that the inside and outside views of a black hole are mutually exclusive descriptions, challenging the idea of one single objective space-time reality that holds both.
Plus the firewall paradox, which adds even more theoretical chaos at the event horizon.
It all chips away at space-time being fundamental. Even Hawking, later in his career with Hertog, proposed a top-down cosmology.
Where the universe's history depends on the observer.
Pretty much. Histories of the universe depend on what is being observed.
Yeah.
Very much in line with cubism reality linked to observation and belief.
So the consensus among many physicists now is
that space-time is likely doomed. As Neem Arkani-Hammad put it, it has to be replaced by something more primitive. It's not fundamental.
Okay, wow. So if space-time isn't fundamental and objects aren't fundamental,
This is where Hoffman proposes conscious realism.
Consciousness itself is fundamental reality.
That's the core idea. Objective reality is a network of interacting conscious agents.
How does that help with the hard problem of consciousness?
It flips it. Instead of asking how unconscious stuff like neurons creates consciousness.
You start with consciousness as the fundamental reality.
Exactly. Conscious experiences are the basic elements. What we perceive as physical matter, like neurons, is how consciousness represents itself, or how other conscious agents appear within our interface.
So in the split brain case,
The scalpel isn't just cutting brain tissue, the icon, it's dividing one conscious agent into two separate conscious agents at a deeper level.
and these conscious agents, can they be described formally?
Hoffman argues yes, mathematically, as systems with sets of possible experiences, decisions, actions governed by probabilistic rules, Markovian kernels. There could be incredibly simple agents, even one-bit agents, at the most fundamental level.
And our human interface, it basically simplifies and misinterprets this underlying conscious reality.
Yes. Because our interface is limited, it projects its limitations onto the world, making us believe in physicalism. That stone you see is just an icon.
But behind the icon,
Behind the icon, according to conscious realism, is a reality potentially just as full of conscious experience as our own, just structured differently and obscured by our specific interface.
does this theory distinguish between awareness and self-awareness?
It does. An agent can experience and act, be aware, without necessarily being self-aware. Self-awareness arises when an agent devotes some of its representational capacity to modeling its own states and actions.
Which allows for learning, presumably.
Yes, that internal modeling is key for learning and adaptation.
Are there connections to other scientific fields? Thermodynamics?
Hoffman speculates, yeah. Natural selection seems to fight entropy. Maybe the fundamental dynamics of conscious agents inherently favors interactions that increase mutual information or complexity.
And that process, when viewed through our space-time interface, looks like evolution by natural selection.
That's a potential connection he explores. It's still early days for the theory.
He even mentions a scientific theology.
Yeah. The idea of modeling an infinite conscious agent mathematically. It sounds like God, but the aim is to make it rigorous, testable part of science, not dogma.
It's interesting how many of these ideas echo older philosophies.
Oh, absolutely. Parmenides, Plato, Leibniz, Kant, Berkeley, to be perceived. Eastern thought, too.
So what's new here?
The attempt to synthesize these ideas into a mathematically precise, testable scientific theory, using the methods of science to explore these deep questions about reality and consciousness.
Because science isn't a belief system, it's a method.
Exactly. It's a way of investigating, of refining ideas through prediction and testing. Even when scientists study physical objects, Hoffman argues they are studying their first-person experiences of those objects, the icons in their interface.
Not some objective third-person reality beyond the interface.
Right. Intersubjectivity. The fact that we agree on what an icon looks like just means our interfaces are similar, not that the icon represents the literal truth.
Okay. What a trip. We've covered a lot.
We really have, from evolution shaping our senses for fitness, creating this interface.
Neuroscience showing how malleable and even divisible consciousness seems.
And physics suggesting space-time itself isn't the bedrock reality we thought it was. Quantum weirdness, holography, black holes.
All pointing away from naive realism.
And leading towards this radical alternative. Conscious realism, the idea that consciousness is fundamental.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with a final thought to chew on.
Right.
If our perceptions really are just a species-specific interface shaped for survival, and if fundamental reality is this network of conscious agents,
Then what else is possible?
yeah, what new kinds of experiences, what deeper realities might we be able to access if we could somehow understand or maybe even tweak or transcend our current interface?
What lies behind the icon of ourselves, of the world? Could new scientific approaches start to reveal that deeper conscious reality?
It opens up some pretty profound possibilities, doesn't it? A universe potentially far more alive and interconnected than our current interface lets on.
Definitely something to think about.